Hey, what's up, Dean? See your performance. We're at the shop today. Viper's gone, done. Mentioned a couple of things that we have to Mark. That's the guy I know that knows the owner of that car. So with the mufflers being collapsing in and breaking apart internally. So mention all of that. He's good with it. He's going to mention it to the guy. Send him a link to some really nice stainless mufflers. So we'll see. Maybe it'll be back. But we are working on the Ranger. And as I said probably a dozen times, I did not like the transmission crossmember the way it was looking. So I basically cut the top off to get that bolt pattern. And took a piece of, I believe it's 1 1/4 inch. Yeah, it's 1 1/4 inch chromoly, and I bent the drop to go for the exhaust, which fits really good. Like, this is a piece of 3 inch. So our 3 inch, you can tell there's like plenty of room. It's hitting it now, but you know, I can go up and down, so plenty of room on both sides for some 3 inch, and this side's gonna come across anyways through here, probably kind of on a 45, and then it'll turn and go back. This cross member here, most likely gonna have to get rid of it, because it's just gonna be in the way of 2 3-inch pipes. The factory went underneath, which I could do a single 3-inch underneath, but we don't want to do that. And then he ordered the muffler, so we got to see, our fitment on the muffler. I'm kind of hoping it'll go in this area right here, and then maybe tuck one tailpipe over on the outside of the shock and one tailpipe over. I might be able to get both tailpipes over, and then we have to decide where we're going to go with the tailpipes, the exits, dumps, whatever we're gonna do with it. But yeah, so what I did, sidetracked so easy, is I built the cross member and built the tabs with the bolt holes to line up with the slots in the frame, and then I cut more plate, drilled them to match the cross member, bolted these on, and then welded the nuts to the back of the plate, and also kind of welded a D for driver, a P for passenger. And then what that does is that goes up inside. You can kind of see it right there. You can see the end, and that is the back. So it acts as a washer, the nut plate. So you don't have to hold a wrench in there. You just basically take them off. They work out really nice. So I got this one for this side, and I bent them a little bit so that you're not trying to slide it against flat and hold it. And you basically just get it in there, put the front one in, wiggle it up and down until you get the back one on, and go from there. Oh, I found a present. I don't know what that is. It's a nut, a tree, something. I don't know what that is. But so there's some stuff up in the frame. We'll take care of that. Probably a couple 100 horsepower more than the factory had. So, and then yeah, so we have the shifter, we have the throw out bearing. So now with the cross member made, I have to take everything out anyway. So it's good because I'll take the cross member out, and these pieces here, and I'll probably throw them in the sandblaster, clean it all up. The transmission mount I can't powder coat because of the rubber, but I'll probably at least spray it gray primer. I don't know what paint I have in the cabinet over there, but I want to try and powder coat this bar, either red or black. I got a couple of reds from Prismatic Powder, and I just shot this little panel real quick. So this is soft. I didn't quite spray it enough. This color here is Wilder Red. And then the other one that I got is Deep Red. So I didn't spray the Deep Red yet. This is the Wilder Red, which needs a little more, but I mean, with the worst light in the world, it's fairly close. Another coat or so would probably be really, really close. So I could do a bunch of kind of matched color pieces, but I may try and do the cross member that color just to kind of see and clean it up underneath. But yeah, so I'm gonna finish this. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I'm gonna pull the cross member back out, pull the drive shaft, pull the transmission out. Also, I got one filter on just for the junk. It's a cheap filter, not junk filter. It's just cheap filter, just for the initial startup. And then I got the zinc additive. I got a good Wix filter, spark plug wires and boots. I don't know what that is. Oh, the coils, and then 2 Mishimoto fans, and these are 10-inch. These are their heavy duty fan. It's like their race series or something, I think they call it. High flow fan, MM fan -10 HD. These have some pretty gnarly blades on them, and I connected it to the battery, and this thing hauls ass. It's super torquey to begin with, but from what I found, that fan, each fan is 1600 CFM, which should be more than enough air to push through the condenser, radiator, and keep this truck cool. So yeah, I got all that stuff. I'm trying to get the transmission done so that I can bolt it in and be done. I got everything welded up, so I got to move the welder out of the way, but trying to get that 100% done so that it's bolted in final time. And then I can work the headers. I ended up looking at my CAD file because I drew the flanges in Fusion, and I noticed there was another flange, and I had labeled them both LS flange 1 and 2. Well, one was V1 and one was V2, which was a mistake because I grabbed V1, just threw it to the water jetter. So when I noticed it, I was doing something else. I was drawing something else, and I noticed that there was a V2, and I was like, uh-oh. So I dragged them both in and did the measurement. It's called inspect, but did the measurement on the flange port. One was just a hair over 2 inch, or just under 2 inch. It was like 1.98, I believe, and the other one was like a 1.78. So it's like almost a quarter of an inch difference. And then I remembered that the first one I drew, V1, was for I don't know what I'm pointing at over here, but it's for an LS, but with different material. There it is. Very thick. Come on. Very thick stainless, like a Schedule 10. See, this is 1.5 inches from Ace Race Parts. I believe this is Schedule 40, maybe. It says 40. So that might be a Schedule 40. That is like a 3/16 wall, gnarly piece of tube that I have an idea for later on, but not for the headers. So I had to resend the file, Plus they were closed early Friday. They're closed. So I had to resend the V2 file to them. I'm gonna have them cut another set of flanges, but I need the bigger flanges for something later on. So we'll just throw them in the box back there and they'll be ready to go when it's time. But yeah, I'm gonna get this transmission out and get the throwout bearing on it and adjusted correctly and locked in, and then the shifter. I have to put the shifter on, then everything can go back up in the truck and we'll be good to go. All right, so it's about 2:15 right now, and I got the cross member all done. The holes are drilled, the plates are made. I got everything in the sandblast cabinet, but I went ahead, pulled the transmission out, took drive shaft out, pulled the transmission out, took the bell housing off, put the bell housing back on, and measured for the throwout bearing. You can see the lines are in there now. They require a clearance, a 125 clearance. So you measure the bell housing face to the fingers, and then you measure the bearing face to the transmission face of like where the bell housing bolts. And that gives you, and then you just keep adjusting. There's that back collar right there, that shiny bit behind the actual bearing is threaded. So it threads into the bearing, and that's what adjusts it. Almost shut my phone off. And that's what adjusts to the fingers on the clutch. So you can kind of see it just barely wiggling in there. So it has just the right amount of clearance. And then there's that little peg that sticks out that I had to cut down. It stuck way out. So I cut it down, you put it in, bolt it, and now your hydraulic lines are out here. And I believe the way it said to do it is use the lower side of the hydraulic line down here to feed the fluid into the bearing. You could use either line, but then you use the upper line to bleed, because all the air will want to go to the top, so you can bleed it out. And they give you a bleeder in the bag right here. They give you a bleeder fitting, but I think what I'm gonna do is buy like a 3AN to 3AN male connector, and I'm gonna route the bleed line all the way up to the clutch reservoir. Possibly. Yeah, I think I'm going to route it up to the clutch reservoir. And that way there, I could put it in the reservoir and you just pump the pedal and it'll bleed it. And then the feed line, I'm going to look into like the 3AN adapter for the cylinder, which I think I have one. And then 3AN male for this line. Like I said, I'm not a manual transmission guy, so some of these things are a little bit weird for me. But with the shifter conversion, the mid, what is it called? Like mid shift conversion. I can't remember exactly what they call it, but you can see it's in the hole, and that plate is on. That blocks off like the factory piece, the shifter. Typically goes here, and it gives you these two options here. So you have to take a couple of pieces out of the transmission. Well, one piece. You take that piece out, you flip the other piece over, put it all back together. You got to take the tail housing off, which is all easy to do. So everything's back together now. Yeah, I am now going to work on the crossmember, and once I get that done, I'll come back. Okay, so it's like 3:30-ish now, something like that. 3:40, somewhere around there. And transmission crossmember's done. I painted the mount silver. Just, that's what I had. But I used I think it's Wilder red. Yeah. So you can see the tabs in the back. It's a little light in some spots. It was a pain in the butt because I only have a small rack, but you can see I spilled it everywhere. But so the Crossmember barely fits in my little cookie oven, but it is a pretty cool color. There's like a couple spots that are a little darker than others where the bar wasn't 100% perfect sandblasted, but regardless, it's a custom transmission crossmember. So the shifter, you can see it is sitting through the floor. That's all done. Drive shaft's back in. It looks like the motor shifted back some when I was pulling the transmission. So I'm going to loosen these two bolts here, and I'm going to push the whole drivetrain forward a bunch, well, as much as I can, and then that will, yeah, you can see it's definitely a slid back, which, you know, as far as the firewall is concerned, is fine, but the drive shaft is not. And I just noticed I never tightened any of the motor mount bolts. So good reminder, tighten all your bolts, double check. So I'll loosen this, shove it forward, and then I'm gonna set it down on the ground because I don't really need it up in the air anymore till I get ready to do the headers and the clutch line and then some of the wiring stuff here. So yeah, but for this one, for now, for this video, I'm gonna end it off, and I'll come back tomorrow, get a bunch more done. And I appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified, and remember, it's Moon Pie Monday. Moon Pie Monday.